For kids, for example, if they're really restless and jumping all around and their minds are scattered, within maybe a minute or two hot breath, their minds will come into focus.
Hello everybody, we have a very diverse and global audience with us here today, and it's a great honor for me to host you all from our headquarters here in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining No Limit Generation's timely response series for parents, teachers, and caregivers. I'm very excited about today's show because Dr. Patricia Gerbarg and Dr. Richard Brown have been my personal teachers in understanding childhood development and psychology, especially for children who have faced extreme adversities. Also, they are also my personal teachers who help me understand and feel the profound impact that breath can have on our neurology, psychology, and physiology. In short, the breath-body-mind connection. This workshop will be particularly useful for parents and teachers and educators and social workers in the audience, especially in these times, as it will equip you with complementary tools to add to your arsenal of self-care and childcare. And it's going to be fun. My name is Samir Mansour, and I'm the founder and CEO of No Limit Generation. We at No Limit Gen realize that not everyone has access to the world's leading child well-being professionals, especially in times of challenge or vulnerability. So our mission is to bring the professionals to you. In this way, we can create supportive environments for children to heal, rise, and thrive into their full potential. On our website at www.nolimitgen.org, you can find practical child well-being training videos on many timely topics, everything from children's mental health, protection, and well-being to the healing practices and activities. We would greatly appreciate your help if you could support us by sharing our content with the people in your network. And all our content and programming is sustained with your generous support, so please consider a donation through our website so that we can continue to support you with quality programming. And now on to our show. So I'm honored to introduce you today to integrative psychologists Dr. Patricia Gerbarg and Dr. Richard Brown. I first met both of them when I was setting up a facility in the Rohingya refugee camps of Bangladesh, where we took in 500 child survivors. They helped me train the children's teachers and caregivers at the school, and I got to see firsthand just how effective their work was. Now, Dr. Patricia Gerbarg is an assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at New York Medical College. She is a graduate of Harvard Medical School and Boston Psychoanalytic Institute. She also practices integrative psychiatry and researches mind-body practices for stress, anxiety, PTSD, and mass disasters. Dr. Richard Brown is a pioneer of integrative psychiatry. Currently, he is an associate clinical professor of psychiatry at Columbia University. He completed his psychiatry residency and fellowship in psychobiology and psychopharmacology at New York Hospital and Cornell. His neuropsychological theory about how breathing can help relieve anxiety, depression, PTSD, and medical conditions is validated in various clinical trials. Together, they have co-authored the enlightening book, The Healing Power of Breath: Simple Techniques to Reduce Stress, Anxiety, Enhance Concentration, Balance Your Emotions, and they continue to lead workshops around the world. So the format of today's 80-minute workshop will be as follows. Dr. Gerbarg will lead us through a short experiential and give us a lecture presenting the science behind the practices and how natural breathing practices and movements contribute to our healing. Dr. Brown will then teach us a few breath and movement techniques so that we can all experience the healing power together. We will wrap up the event with a Q&A where we address all your burning questions. And with that, Dr. Gerbarg, welcome. How about we get started with a question today? This is fascinating work. Talk to us about what inspired all of this, and go ahead and feel free to jump into your presentation from here. Take it away.
So I'm going to save your question for later. Some of the slides might answer your question.
Wonderful.
So what is Breath, Body, Mind? It's a program that we've developed over the past 20 years. It is evidence-based and breath-centered. And the purpose is to quickly reduce symptoms of stress and trauma. And it is beneficial for adults, children, and families. And it can be used to enhance any other form of treatment. And we particularly wanted something that would be fast and very effective as well as safe, because in disaster situations, you don't have a lot of time. And having come trained as a psychoanalyst, with a very prolonged treatment, it was important that we really make this possible to be done in a short time. So it's founded on the basic understanding that breathing and emotion are bidirectional. So specific emotions are associated with particular breathing patterns, and it works in reverse. If we voluntarily change our pattern of breathing, we can actually shift our emotional state. And we call the practices voluntarily regulated breathing practices. Now, just to basic understanding, which many of you already have, the autonomic nervous system that controls the automatic functions of our body has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic branch to it. Sympathetic branch, fight or flight. Parasympathetic branch, rest, digest, recover. That's how we used to understand it. But now we've discovered much more. The parasympathetic branch also is very involved in our emotion regulation, how we relate to other people. It is anti-inflammatory and restores our energy reserves. The most common imbalance in our stress system is one in which we have an overactive sympathetic branch that is sort of overstimulated to respond to threat or danger. And we have an underactive parasympathetic rest and recovery branch. And this is particularly true today because with the coronavirus epidemic, there are so many things that people are worried about that it's like one stress after another, and this never gets to come down. The fastest, simplest way to restore balance is through what we call coherent breathing. Now, we know it works because we've observed it, but in terms of why and how, I'll explain a little bit of that to you, and you can certainly look on our website. We have a lot of our papers if you want to go more deep into it than we can today. But basically, there are two large nerves, the vagus nerves that come out of the neck, and they are the main conduits for the parasympathetic system. And they regulate all the glands and organs. But about 80% of the fibers in them are carrying messages from the body up to the brain, interoceptive messages, so that the body tells the brain every millisecond what is happening in the body. And when we breathe slowly, we activate those vagal pathways. So you can see them here going from the lungs. Every time you breathe in and out, millions of messages go up the vagus nerve, and then that information goes to the emotion regulatory centers, to the hypothalamus that regulates cortisol release, to the thalamus, which communicates with the whole cortex, and to the higher centers where we have to evaluate information and make decisions and so on. And this is the whole circuit in which we regulate our emotions. So what happens when we breathe slowly is it quiets down the overactivity in the emotion centers, and it increases the ability of the higher centers to think more clearly, make better decisions, and better regulate our emotional states. Now, coherent breathing is simply a very natural breathing where you breathe very, very gently, preferably through the nose. And when you breathe, you slow it down somewhere between 3 and 6 breaths per minute. 5 breaths per minute is on average for adults, and so we tend to use that. The length of the inhale is equal to the length of the exhale. And we do it without any force or pressure. And when we do this, we go into a very calm but alert mental state. This is different from a kind of dreamy meditative state. We're actually quite alert and able to work, solve problems, and deal with whatever situation we're in with calmness. So when you work with children about the age of 9 and younger, you do need slightly faster respiratory rates. But on average for adults, it's 5, unless you're over 6 feet tall. Now, we use an understanding based on Dr. Stephen Porges's work. He developed what's called polyvagal theory. And what he's explained is that we regulate our physiology as well as our psychological states And how do we learn to do that? Well, it begins, as you all know, with our close relationship with our caregivers in infancy. And that's where we learn first. And here you can see this eye-to-eye contact, but especially with the koalas. When there is this close physical contact and the babies and the mother are very still, then the physiology is transmitted. And if the mother is in a calm, loving state, that then regulates the baby's physiology and the reverse. So good parenting is the basis of developing a healthy self-regulation ability. Well, what happens when there's stress or trauma or neglect? It can disrupt the self-regulation by the autonomic nervous system. So instead of having an engaging system, we see defense reactions, fight, flight, or immobilization. When we're feeling safe in the green zone, our parasympathetic system is working well. We're socially engaged, we're flexible and adaptive, we're well regulated, and we're able to bond and love, be intimate, soothe, cooperate, and have better empathy. All is in this zone. But when we feel threatened and the sympathetic system comes on board and kind of takes over, then we're more defensive, we're not really engaging, we're emotionally dysregulated, we might have intense anger, fear, anxiety, and overreactivity. So when we feel our life is threatened, then the whole system defaults to an earlier evolutionary set of pathways called the unmyelinated vagal system. And that's where you might see freeze reactions, disconnection, dissociation, and numbing. So with the breathing practices, we are strengthening this part of the system so that the individual can be more resilient and tolerate more stress and yet still stay calm and able to think clearly and relate well, and is less likely to be thrown into the sympathetic state. Or if you are in this state and you do the breathing, you can get out of it much faster and more easily, and hopefully not default down to that life threat situation. So by voluntarily controlling our breathing, it's a kind of portal, because breathing is the only autonomic system that we can also control voluntarily. And by changing our pattern of breathing, we change those interoceptive messages that the body is sending to the brain. And by that, we rapidly can change how we're thinking and our emotional state, because the brain listens to the lungs. Boom. Okay. And it does so. The messages from the lungs have very high priority because breathing is such a critical function. The brain is always going to listen first to what's happening with our breathing. Now, the much more science is happening all the time. Studies are discovering more and more connections between breathing and brain function. And more recently, we're showing that the brain actually locks in or entrains the brainwave patterns in critical areas. So, for example, this is an advanced practitioner doing this breathing, and you can see across the whole cortex, instead of a kind of ragged pattern, all the brain waves are lining up. Whole brain synchrony. The whole brain is talking to itself in rhythm. This is a very powerful pattern. Another aspect is the neurotransmitters, which are also affected by breathing. And it turns out that we've got some evidence now that doing coherent breathing can increase the inhibitory neurotransmitter called GABA. And why is that important? Because, if you remember, one of the big problems with anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder is that the emotion centers are overactive and they need to be inhibited. And that's what the inhibitory neurotransmitter can do. So we need to have better neurotransmission. And this is a study of depressed patients we did with a group at BU using yoga and coherent breathing. And what we found was that as the people did more and more yoga and coherent breathing over a 12-week period, their depression scores came down, down, down. We also found that this shows an area of the brain, the thalamus, and it's actually a brain scan, a special kind used that's measuring the level of GABA, the inhibitory neurotransmitter. And what you see here is that beginning of the study, their GABA levels were actually low, which is common in depression. But after 12 weeks of doing yoga and coherent breathing, their GABA levels have gone up. And then at the end, when they do it again, even better. So this is the first evidence that these practices can actually change the level of this neurotransmitter. Breathing also affects neurohormones, especially oxytocin, which is, as you know, the cuddle hormone, and is important for feelings of connection, bonding, and love. And slow breathing increases the release of oxytocin. So we have all these different mechanisms coming into play when we do the practices. Now, we've done quite a number and published clinical studies in schizophrenia, in inflammatory bowel disease, in trauma survivors, and so forth. We don't have time to present them, but the publications are available. We'll just talk briefly about our work with 9/11 responders and people affected by the World Trade Center towers, because this is where we began to develop our program years ago, giving pro bono workshops to people affected by this disaster. And just an example of one of our studies showing these were individuals who were first responders or people who escaped from the towers. They were highly traumatized. They had PTSD, anxiety, disability, all kinds of issues. And we gave them a 2-day breath, body, mind workshop. And immediately after the workshop, their scores on anxiety, depression, and so forth were much significantly improved, which is indicated over here. We've repeated this and found the same results. We also have done studies in war veterans. This is a randomized controlled study in Australian Vietnam veterans who were 100% disabled with post-traumatic stress. And Dr. Brown gave them a long program. They needed more in breathing practices. And as a result of that, what you see here is that in 6 weeks, their scores on PTSD came down by 14 points, and by 6 months, 28 points. Those of you who know this scale will realize that this is almost an unprecedented improvement that these very ill veterans were able to experience. And even in active duty soldiers, we've done many programs for active duty soldiers and caretakers. And even there we find, this is only a 4-hour program, very high level of improvement, 50 to 100% improvement in feelings of calmness, tension, anger, mood, worry, clear mind, more alert, more energy, and less pain. So many aspects are rapidly improved, even in highly stressed people like active duty military. Now, what I'd like to do before we go on is I'd like to ask Dr. Brown to come and just teach you a couple of quick breathing practices, and then he'll come back at the end and teach you some more. So
wonderful.
Pardon?
So everyone, I think, will this require us to stand up or sit down?
You're going to want to stand up for this.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and model what you're doing, and everybody else who is joining in from around the world, feel free to stand up and, let's do these practices.
Okay. And first, we're going to want to see Dr. Brown.
Absolutely. So just follow what I do, and we're going to do something activating, so it'll be easier following the rest of the science. And what we're going to do something we call ha breath. You're going to breathe in with your palms up and your elbows back, and then you're going to go ha, like you're shaking water off your fingers. And notice I'm not straightening my elbows. There's a bend at the elbow. Okay? So I'm going to be slightly sideways just so you can keep that in mind, to have a little bend. Okay? So let's synchronize our breathing. Take a deep breath in. And let go. And breathing in. Ha! Breathing in. Ha! In. Ha! Loud. Ha! 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 Two more. Ha! Ha! Now relax your arms, closing your eyes if possible, or part way, if you're more comfortable that way. Go inside and feel the sensations in your body. Where has the energy changed most in your body? And observe the kind of thoughts you're having. How does your breath want to be now? Fast or slow, smooth or ragged? And what kind of rhythm does your breath want to be in? The core breathing is the coherent breathing, as Dr. Gerbarg said. And let's just do that for a moment. We'll come back to it later because it's so important. And you can do it anytime, anywhere with practice. So we're going to combine it with movement, a very simple movement. This is from Qigong, as taught by Master Robert Peng, called Painting the Waterfall. You're going to be imitating me, but we're going to combine it with the breathing. If possible, breathing in and out through the nose. If it's hard to breathe out through your nose, in through the nose and out through the mouth. So breath in, 2, 3, 4, breath out, dipping your upper legs if possible, 3, 4. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in. Match my speed and movement. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in. And breath out. And relax. Extend your spine toward the sun and the stars. Let your arms just dangle. Let your shoulders drop. Go inside and feel first the changes. What do you feel in your fingers and hands? What do you feel in your chest, your feet, your legs, your whole body? And opening our eyes, and now Dr. Gerbarg will come back to this slide.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for that quick little sneak peek. And I'm curious, for those of you who are on the chat, would love to hear what your experience was. If you followed his prompts, how did you feel in your body? Where did you feel the activity in your body? And did you notice any changes in the quality of your thoughts? Would love to hear any of your feedback in the chat as we proceed with the rest of the lecture. We're seeing a lot of activity in fingers, calm breath and mind, really warm hands, tingling in the hands, more awake. So some wonderful reflections here, calm, refreshed, warmth and relaxation in the upper back and shoulders. And are these typical responses, Dr. Gerbarg?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So perhaps you can share with us how people around the world are experiencing this as well, and more of the science behind it.
Absolutely. So just want to make sure, can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this is a little bit of the international work. Dr. Brown has been to Sudan and numerous other countries, but here what you're seeing, these are South Sudanese individuals, mostly women and children, during the many wars there, multiple invasions of South Sudan, and then capturing people, particularly women, and taking them and holding them for many years in sexual slavery in North Sudan. And now that they're being liberated, what you're seeing here is a group of 400, mostly women and children, who have just been liberated from years of brutal slavery, and they've just crossed the border into South Sudan and sat down under a large tree. They're given a quick medical check and some food, and then they're told, this man is going to teach you breathing. So Dr. Brown was allowed 20 minutes to give them a practice to help them begin to recover from their years of trauma. And I'm just going to show you a bit of what happened on that day.
So let's tell them that we're going to do special breathing to help them start healing process.
Hey. Ai lel man tin la kana we wi ku bu yo tan de kai we tin naning kala ju no lo tan ni ala we twen man tin.
They're going to breathe in continuously unless I say to hold the breath.
E la we di kai we twen kan ba we ben ba lak bu po mat tin la.
And they're just going to follow what I do with my hands as they breathe. Okay?
Kai en man tin we ga bia we de kita ben we ban na tong tin kin.
So, hands here.
La loi ka we kin kala man tin.
And breathe in.
Jol we lo cái đằng ba miet.
Bring the hands up.
Kai bi kin yal.
Continue to breathe in.
Kai we pat.
Hold the breath. Arms stretch.
Ba go ba miet yal.
Good. Hold the breath. Hold the breath. Hold the breath. And breathe out. 2,
Jol we ya da
3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in.
yal.
Hold the breath. Breathe out.
Ban we ya da
One more. Breathe in.
kan có go cái quê yal.
Hold the breath. And breathe out. Relax a moment, eyes closed. Just being very still. Breathe in. All together.
Alo cái đó. Đó cái đó.
Celebrate your independence. Hey, let's do it together. Hey,
So that was quite a transformation in 20 minutes. And
That's amazing, Dr. Gerbarg. And you could really feel the energy shift in between, when Dr. Brown first stood in front of that group and then afterwards, complete transformation.
Exactly. And it begins a healing process. It kind of brings them out of the state of being enslaved and oppressed, and it kind of breaks the mold, that pattern of that, opens their minds and their emotions to a more healing process. And that continues because 19 women who were there volunteered to become breath, body, mind teachers for South Sudan. And with a little more training over the past 9 years, they've been going to all the villages and orphanages teaching these healing breathing practices. We did a brief study showing that here you can see their PTSD scores at the beginning. These were the 19 women. Within 6 weeks, there was a huge improvement, and more so by 18 weeks. But there's much more rapid improvement in their PTSD and mood. And we see this regardless of the nature of the trauma, how long the trauma's gone on, how long ago. It's really, here are two of the women now, when they breathe afterwards, they jump up and sing and dance. This is a group of aid workers at U.S. Aid in South Sudan. They were under extreme stress because the areas in which they work are quite dangerous and there's recurring conflict. And so Dr. Brown gave them a program. This is a tapping sequence. I just want to show you how much they enjoy.
Let's go to the other side. Let's go down your arm.
So this is the story of a pharmacist. Dr. Brown taught the staff at the Juba Medical Center a one-day, 6-hour program, and one of the participants was a pharmacist. And his story was that when his village was attacked 9 years earlier, he was forced to watch his sister burn to death in the flames. And since that time, he had a constant image of her burning in front of his eyes all day and all night, and it never left him all those years. So he did the 6-day training, and he was told to do the coherent breathing 20 minutes a day at home, which he did for 7 days. And then he traveled 1,000 miles back to give Dr. Brown the news that for the first time, the images of his sister had stopped. And he kept saying over and over, I feel free, I feel free. We hear so many stories of people who suffered horrific traumas and found tremendous relief in these very simple practices. Because this reduces the defensive reactions, the anger, and it activates our capacity to feel safe and connected and loved. And by that, it counteracts emotional isolation. Now, I'm going to just skip through some of these other studies. We have many. I want to talk a little bit about the coronavirus crisis that we're all in. It's very challenging, as you know, because the healthcare providers who are caring for patients during the disaster, they themselves are being affected by the disaster. And they're also feeling stressed and anxious. We're seeing more depression. We're seeing some suicides, and so on and so forth. I want to share with you, this is a young, actually it's his first year as an acute care doctor in Karachi, Pakistan. His name is Bilal. He was able to train on breath, body, mind just last month by Zoom, because we're giving our programs and we're reaching out to healthcare providers and doctors and people on the front lines to give them some relief. And this is a video he sent shortly after completing his teacher training program.
Hi, my name is Dr. Bilal and I'm an acute care doctor here in Karachi, Pakistan. So in the current corona pandemic, we're facing a lot of uncertainty and stress. We're short on PPEs, we have patients crashing, and it just gets really overwhelming at times dealing with these things and trying to manage patients in the correct way. So one thing that's really helping me stay focused is the coherent breathing that I do sometimes during, like with my mask on, and other times in my breaks. And it really helps me to stay centered and grounded and to be able to do my job right. And I feel that as healthcare providers, we are really burning out at this time. And I think this is something that we should be learning this skill to breathe at 5 breaths per minute. And it will really help us get through the stress we're facing and perform better so that we can serve the community better.
And he is also now teaching other people in Pakistan.
Hi.
So the most common complaints we hear of people suffering from coronavirus crisis among healthcare workers and the general public: fear, anxiety, worry, guilt, isolation, disconnection, irritability, anger, and depression. And we know that the movement and the breathing that we teach is going to address all of these issues by increasing feelings of calmness and safety, helping people sleep, reducing their worries, improving their feelings of connectedness. As people are complaining of isolation, we can activate more their feelings of being bonded and close to others. And it improves relationships, reducing family tensions and possible violence in families, as well as their sense of isolation. Being able to teach this virtually now online expands the possibilities of bringing this all over the world, so that anywhere that individuals are experiencing the traumas and crisis, they can access these very simple techniques, and they can be taught by anyone. We have teacher training programs online and so forth. We feel they're very important for public health because they're so easy to learn. They're safe. They hardly cost anything compared to other treatments. And they help all other treatments to work better. They'll also reduce pain and improve motion regulation and so forth. We have numerous programs for children. We don't have time to show them all, I'm afraid, today. This is a program that was done following the earthquake in Haiti. And it's also been brought to Rwanda and other countries, as well as to schools in the United States. And we think that especially the activating practices will help children to focus and concentrate better when they have to sit in front of a screen and do their work for many hours a day if they can't go to school. And in school, this is an inner city school near Harlem, where there were a lot of issues with the children, and they were taught ha breathing, which you can see them really enjoy doing. It significantly helped them very quickly to be able to better regulate their emotions. Sorry. We've also taught this to refugees from the Middle East in shelters in Berlin. We teach children using a little stuffed animal called a breathing buddy so they can do the coherent breathing, and we taught the mothers to help their children go to sleep. The Chibok girls were kidnapped by the Boko Haram in 2014, as you may recall, highly traumatized women still with PTSD in Nigeria. And here you see Somiari Dem. She has been their psychotherapist since 2014. And she came and trained with us and became a breath, body, mind teacher. And about a year ago, you could see her teaching them coherent breathing. She found that within 2 to 4 weeks, their scores on post-traumatic stress disorder improved significantly. And she had been doing many other kinds of therapy with them for all these years. So she finds it very helpful, even in extreme trauma. And just here's a picture of some kids in No Limit Generation group. And these are the Rohingya refugee children, and they're also learning coherent breathing. So autonomic balance is the key for emotion regulation, social emotional learning, connectedness, mental focus, awareness, and stress resiliency. And you can find many resources on our website, breath-body-mind.com. This is the book that Samir mentioned. We have others, and this lecture also you'll find has numerous other references and resources. So at this point, I think we're going to end the slideshow and the screen sharing and allow Dr. Brown to teach you some more practices, unless Samir has another question. I can't hear you.
I think that was a wonderful overview, and absolutely, having taken your workshops as well, not only does one feel it, but when one learns to administer these practices to others, you really see the psychological changes. Similar to what you guys felt in just 2 minutes or 3 minutes of practice, you can induce those changes during any challenging period that you're going through, whether it's in the course of your day-to-day work, but also if you're working with children of adversity in classrooms, refugee camps around the world, I've seen it being very effective. And so now Dr. Brown is going to lead us through a couple more exercises so we can experience the power of these breath, body, mind movements and of coherent breathing that Dr. Patricia Gerbarg has been discussing.
How much time would you like me to go, Samir, so there's enough time for questions?
Absolutely. I think if we can be in Q&A by 105, 110 latest, we should be good.
Okay. Good.
So about 15, 20 minutes if we stretch it.
Okay, great. So in that case, I'm going to stand up again. I'll ask everybody to stand up, but if someone needs to be sitting down, that's okay. Okay, so you saw me doing Ha breath in South Sudan. We'll now do a different kind of breathing with some breath holding. If you're pregnant or you have other medical issues where you find it hard to do this at first, just breathe slowly as the rest of us do this. So feet about hip or shoulder width, and your spine extending as if there's a balloon pulling up from the crown of my head toward the sun, straightening my spine. And then just follow my arm movements. We're going to breathe in for 4 beats, which I'll count for you. Pause or hold the breath without effort for 4 beats. Breathe out for 6 and pause that out breath 2. So hands palms up below your navel. Breathing in, coming up, 2, 3, 4. Pause your breath without effort. And breathing out, coming down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause the out breath 2. Breathing in, coming up, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause 2. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause 2. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause 2. Once more, breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause 2 and rest. Just let your arms relax. Closing your eyes or part way if that feels better for you. Go inside. Feel the changes inside your body and your mind and your breath. And let's paint the waterfall again. So breathing in, coming up, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in. Feel the waterfall against your fingers. Breathing out, imagine you're painting down this beautiful waterfall. 5, 6. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Again, breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Now feel an energy ball between your hands. Feel the energy between your fingers and palms. And you may see the energy ball in your mind's eye with whatever beautiful colored light it wants to have. And imagine as we breathe in, expand your ball. Feel it pulling away a little bit from your fingers and palms. And breathing out, squeeze it. Feel it push back. 2, 3, 4. Breath in. 2, 3, 4. Breath out. 2, 3, 4. Let's make a few figure eights. Imagine Keeping the ball between your hands, feel it. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. And then bring the energy ball up here and expand it. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, squeeze it into a brilliant point of light in one of your palms. And let's put it in our belly, just below our navel, our belly button. And closing your eyes, feel that energy going into your internal organs, making them more alive and full of energy. And opening our eyes, let's sit down again. Some of you may still be sitting, that's fine. And we're going to focus more on the breathing. And to pace your breathing, because I'll be asking you to do other things with my voice, I'm going to play some notes, and we're going to breathe in on the rising notes and breathe out on the falling notes. So first we'll have to orient to that. Notes falling, notes rising. Breath out through the nose, effortless, continuous. Breath in through the nose on the rising notes, continuous, effortless. Breath out, the belly gets smaller. Breath in, the belly gets bigger. Breath out, the belly gets smaller. Breath in, the belly gets bigger. Your body relaxes more with each breath out. Continuous, effortless breathing in as the notes rise, and breath out as the notes fall. Breath in, and breath out, and if possible, closing your eyes all the way, or at least part way if that feels more comfortable for you. Relax your eyebrows, your face, your jaw. Breath in gently. Breath out, relax your hands, your arms between your shoulder blades. Breath in. Breath out. Let the notes help pace you. As you breathe in, you don't have to fill all of your lungs. Just relax, staying in this rhythm. And when you breathe out, you don't have to squeeze all the air out. Breath in. And breath out, relaxing your chest, your stomach, your lower back. Breath in. Feel this subtle increase in energy breathing in. Breath out, relax your legs, your feet, your whole body. Breathing in as the tones go up. Breathing out as the tones go down. When your mind wanders, bring your attention back to feeling the breath moving in your nose and throat and letting the notes guide you. Breathing in and breathing out. Whatever thoughts or memories or images or sensations come into your awareness, just let those things float by like clouds in the sky. Let the nose guide you, just responding spontaneously and feeling the breath inside your nose and throat. You're just breathing. And if you feel like you're straining or struggling, let go and allow a smile to appear as if by magic on your face. See how that changes the quality of your breathing. Now, a way to make this even more helpful for erasing the old stress is to imagine we can move the breath around our body with our attention. The most basic circuit we do this in is found everywhere in the world where advanced breathing is done. As we breathe out, imagine the breath and your attention flowing to the base of your spine. Breathing in, it flows up through your body to the top of your head. Breath out, down to the base of the spine, your sit bones, your pelvic bones. Breath in, feel a wave of like water flowing up to the top of your head and back down to the base of the spine. Just like washing water up and down the outside of the skin of your body, you're now washing inside your body with the breath. Breath in to the top of the head, and breath out to the base of the spine. Primarily feel a sense of movement. It might feel like a breeze, rustling the leaves on the trees in the forest, cooling you on a very hot day. Breath in, top of the head. Breath out to the base of the spine. Or it might feel like little feathers floating up and down, just gently brushing against the insides of your body. And for me, it feels like my body is in the transporter beam of the Starship Enterprise, shimmering and beginning to vibrate and move through space and time. Whatever image helps you feel that sense of movement up and down inside. Top of the head, base of the spine, when your mind wanders, come back to feeling the breath moving inside you. The quality of your mind determines the quality of your life, and the qualities of your breath are the things that have the biggest impact on your mind. And I'm going to pause the music tones. And imagine every cell of your body is an ear, feeling the energy of the music moving through it. And imagine feeling the space your whole body occupies. The space around you and the space inside you. Imagine feeling the space inside your nose as the breath moves gently through it. The space inside your mouth, the volume of your tongue, the space from your tongue to your cheeks and gums and lips. Feeling the space between your ears and deep inside your ears at the same time. Feeling your face, your eyebrows, your nose, your lips, your chin, your whole scalp and ears. Feeling the space between each and every rib. The volume of your lungs as they get bigger as you breathe in, get a little smaller as you breathe gently out. Feeling the space inside your belly, inside the internal organs. The space between your hips. Imagine the breath filling your whole body with energy, which it does. And as the breath leaves the body, you're left filled with empty space. And while feeling the space your whole body occupies, feel the space the room occupies around you. Become aware of your thoughts, whether positive or negative. Become aware of your feelings, whether pleasant or unpleasant. Can you imagine being in harmony with your thoughts? Feel the sensations in your body vividly. And hear the sounds around you, the ones close to you and far away. And take a deep breath in Let go. And as you take another deep breath in, stretch your arms and legs. Lengthen your body and spine. And as you breathe out, just relax. And then let's all come back together. You can open your eyes gently and gradually when you're ready.
That was a wonderful practice, Dr. Brown. I'm feeling so zen right now. I'm not sure how to continue this interview. I think we're having some wonderful comments from the audience come in right now as well. I think people found that very relaxing, so thank you. At this point, if there's any questions that you have, we'd like to open it up for Q&A. As you think of your questions, I have one. This is a period of a lot of uncertainty for many of us. And I'm curious for the parents, for the teachers, or the social workers, how might they be able to make best use of these practices, either for themselves, for self-care, or with their children? Many of these exercises are child-friendly, and we have a lot of these exercises on our website that parents can, and teachers and social workers can tap into. But how can we set them up to use these practices?
Well, I think that there are many ways to do that, fortunately, and your website has made them much more accessible. We also have many videos of Dr. Brown teaching the practices, so people can watch these on our website as well, and we also explain how to use them. So, but very briefly, you could divide them into activating practices like the Ha breath you learned, and then there are balancing practices like painting the waterfall and others. And then there are very relaxing practices like the more meditative breathing while visualizing. So people need a variety of things. And for kids, for example, if they're really restless and jumping all around and their minds are scattered, within maybe a minute or two hot breath, their minds will come into focus and they'll settle down. It's perfect to do before they have to sit down and do some work, homework, or work on the computer. Just a couple minutes of hot breath. Teachers will find that if they start their class, like the picture we showed you, with a little bit of hot breath, the kids were doing it, there are several different ways. That's the fastest way to get your class settled down, sitting and paying attention and ready to learn. So that's great for that. The other issue, of course, is stress, anxiety, and specifically trouble sleeping. So for those kinds of emotions, we want to use some of the more calming practices. And for kids, it's a lot better to do movement with the coherent breathing. That's basically what Dr. Brown was doing. There are many different kinds of movements. So if you noticed, when he did painting the waterfall, we were breathing at 5 breaths per minute. And when he did the energy ball, we were breathing at 5 breaths per minute. So children especially understand the energy ball, and they will breathe in with the energy ball getting bigger, and they'll breathe out with it getting smaller. So if the parent can get a soundtrack to pace their breathing, the one that we're playing is brand new. It's called the 5 Breath Tones. And there's a website where it's available. People can get it for free, or they can make a small donation to our charitable foundation, which sponsors scholarships for people to learn the practices. And the website for that I'll share with you. I can put it on the chat. It's basically, the website is naturalsinger.com/5-breaths. I'll put it on the chat for you. And there they can go and just download this track. We're just putting up a 60-minute version of it. And they can use that for their children as well as for themselves to go into this 5 breaths per minute rhythmic breathing. But I would recommend coming to our website and watching again how we teach it and do it, because it is important to do it really gently without pulling the breath in and without pushing it out. The gentler and gentler you can do it, the more it's going to activate the parasympathetic calming system and all of the healing practice properties of that. So those would be some tools. Also, our book, The Healing Power of the Breath, has audio tracks with it, which specifically teach these and many other practices that we use. And of course, people are more than welcome to sign up for any of our workshops that we may be able to offer during the coming months.
Wonderful. And I can attest to these practices and how well they work with children. I've seen Dr. Gerbarg go through a couple of these exercises, especially the deactivating ones, or the ones where children have lots of energy. And I just see her like a magician, just put them to sleep within a couple of minutes of talking them through and helping them, just regulate their breath. And again, those practices are available on either Dr. Gerbarg's website, breathbodymind.com, or nolimitgen.org. You can see those exercises. We have we've already broken them out into activating exercises. So if you or your children are feeling a little bit lethargic and down, they're designed to activate you up. Or if you are feeling active and high anxiety, then they're designed to bring you down. So all those you can follow along with. Yep, go ahead.
Just one other thing. After you learn to do the coherent breathing with your eyes closed, we recommend doing that 20 minutes a day. And over time, that will strengthen and transform and balance your whole inner nervous system. This is learning how to use our own inner systems to heal ourselves. But then after that, you can also do it with your eyes open. So then wherever you might be in any stressful situation, you can just be breathing at 5 breaths per minute, and nobody knows you're doing it. So on and off during the day, whenever you start to feel tense or anxious, just do a few minutes of this and it will calm you down. So it's a wonderful tool for anxiety as well as helping you go to sleep at night. And the book goes into details about that. And the book has been translated into 6 languages and will be translated into more for people who may be tuning in from other countries.
Great. And we had a question come in from the audience, a couple of questions, and I'll go through them. One is, what about for very young children who are about 2 years old, high energy, running around, falling over the place? How might we be able to use some of these techniques or your practices with them?
Well, of course, it's more challenging, but even little kids like to mimic. They're wonderful copycats, So if you do it playfully and for short periods of time, we have videos of children as young as 3 doing hot breath, and they can do shaking, which is great for dispelling energy. And they can do tapping. We have a video of a 2-year-old learning a tapping sequence. But you have to, don't push it on them too much. But if you do it, for example, in front of a mirror with them, they'll get into it, or play music. That's another great way for kids to do it. We usually play music with the tapping. So you play tunes that they like. And then they'll get into this tapping business with you.
In our more advanced training, we get into even more specific techniques for children and children with special needs, but obviously it's not possible to do it today in the amount of time. But usually for the children at the school you saw in Harlem, they were very agitated and overactive because of great stress and trauma in their lives. And they just calmed right down and then could focus on their schoolwork in a very different way.
Yes. And somebody saying, chiming in saying, would breath counts be shorter? Absolutely. If you go to our website and you see these exercises, we actually show you at the front why breath count of this much for children ages A to B. Breath count of those on the website that you can take advantage of. And also, Pat, for very young children, the image of the panda that you showed in coherent breathing, or was it panda or some other animal? I forget what it was in the earlier very cute image.
There was a panda,
yeah.
There was a koala.
Yeah, so you can regulate your breath while holding the child close to you, and that can have an impact on the child as well. Can you speak to that?
Yes, of course. We have some teachers who work with infants and mothers and one in a neonatal intensive care unit. And what she found was that if she puts on the soundtrack and the mother or the father hold the baby close, both the mother and the infant begin to co-regulate better. And then even these very small premature babies are able to calmly feed, keep their feedings down instead of throwing them up, and their oxygen levels go up. The parents feel calmer. So by calming the mother's physiology, transmits to the baby. And sometimes the babies calm when they just put on the soundtrack, the babies stop fidgeting, they calm down. And when the mothers see the babies calm down, then the mothers calm down. So sometimes it's the babies regulating the mothers. So these soundtracks are very helpful for that situation where you have the stress of a baby that's fidgety or a mother who's tense and anxious, understandably. And they're very good for pregnancy because studies are showing that the state of the mother is autonomic system is affecting the state of the baby in utero. And that if the mother has a balanced system, you're less likely to get premature babies and they have better growth and better weight. So from pregnancy to delivery and afterwards, coherent breathing is very good.
So we're often asked to work also with teens, and teens are another special group where each of these things that we're doing can be modified for different groups and different needs. And the teens in America are certainly very anxious and having a lot of problems now. It's quite documented with many objective rating scales and studies. And what I find can be helpful for them is, first of all, doing a lot of movement with breathing, and also finding out what their goals are, because we haven't talked about how coherent breathing helps your mind, body, spirit work better. So whatever your goals are, if you do it regularly, you're more likely to accomplish them. And I find, for example, it's very different working with 9th and 10th graders as opposed to 11th graders who are going to be taking SAT and other standardized exams. So the ones going for exams quickly realize that they perform much better if they learn how to do the breathing regularly. And also during the test, your brain works better to solve more complex problems. And anxiety gets in the way, and you can manage that. I would have loved to have had this tool when I was that age too. But we find that doing it with movement and music really makes a big difference. And schools I brought it into have modified it in different ways to fit. And it also helps them create a sense of community and connection. Because when you do the breathing together, you feel much more connected to your classmates. And then if someone's having problems, you can say, you know, if you're not feeling well, how can I help? Who can help if I can't help? And so people aren't feeling so on the outside, okay? Everyone is together, helping each other, move together.
And you're absolutely right about helping children come into a calm state before they take tests, or even, you know, as they're about to start a classroom. For the teachers in the audience here, we've seen a profound effect. You know, when children immediately come into class, they might have lots of thoughts going on in their head. They were just with their friends. Their state is a little bit more alert and active, and they can't immediately go straight into learning. But by doing some of these calming exercises, or doing the Ha breath, for example, it releases that energy. It brings the body and mind into a more balance, and they're more receptive now to learning. So you're creating the conditions for that learning to happen. And these practices are very effective at that. I had another question that came in a couple of times. Of course, you know, in this period, when we're out in public, it's recommended that we wear masks. And breathing being a very critical component of what we're talking about here, especially this resonant breathing. How do we balance, where, some of our breath might be restricted with mask wearing? What are your suggestions on how we might be able to get the fullness of our breath in?
Well, here's the thing. Coherent breathing is actually more gentle than even what you're probably doing a lot of the time, because if you're stressed, you're tending to breathe too hard and too fast anyway. So all we're doing is slowing down your breathing. It should not be with any great effort. And therefore, the air should pass through the mask just as easily as if you were doing your breath naturally. So if you have trouble with the mask, it's probably an indicator that you're breathing too hard. Breathe even more gently, because people can breathe gently in and out through their masks.
See, as doctors, we get used to wearing masks in surgery. And also, when I was teaching in Taiwan and Hong Kong at the time of SARS and other pandemics or epidemics that occurred before this, everyone wears them because they know if they don't, they're very likely to get ill and or die. And it's just a matter of switching on the idea that this mask protects you and everyone else you care about. And you breathe gently, and it works out fine.
Yeah. Now, in our book we describe other breathing practices like ocean breath and hot breath. You don't want to do any of those intense breathing practices with a mask on. Do them when you're home and you don't have to wear a mask, okay? But coherent breathing, you should be able to do that comfortably just about anywhere. Dr. Bilal Ahmed was concerned about that, but he was doing his coherent breathing while he was taking care of patients in intensive care. And as long as he kept his breath really gentle, it was fine. So that's what I would recommend. Breathe really gently and see if it won't be comfortable for you. Certainly, if you get your anxiety down, it should be easier and easier. When you change your pattern of breath right in the beginning, it's a little uncomfortable because you're not used to it. So don't be surprised. Just stay with it and work on really being gentle and relaxing. And within a few days, it'll become quite easy for you. There won't be any effort involved. Just a matter of practice, like most good things.
One of the issues is engaging teens and college students. And I find that, again, sometimes they want to do it for sleep. Sometimes they want to do it for better sports performance. Sometimes they want to do it for theater or for musical performance. And so there's usually some goal they have. And virtually always the breathing will enable them to achieve that goal or goals much better and perform better, whether it's for a musical audition or in a concert or a soccer game. And also we find they really need to do it in groups when they learn it. And they really help each other. And having students learn to teach it. So a school where I've been teaching about 2 years, what the students in the first group I did for 2 years, 3 of the girls at graduation led 150 New York City high school principals in doing the breathing. They love to teach not only kids, but adults. And they love taking the responsibility for sharing something that has enabled them to do better.
The other thing that college students and high school students have is test anxiety, especially around the PSATs, the SATs, and the students in college too. They have so many tests, whether within the school or when they're applying for the next thing, interviews, all kinds of situations where they get really anxious. And if you let them know that once they master how to do coherent breathing, they can do it with their eyes open, then what I tell them to do is, okay, you're going to go to a test, start your coherent breathing as you're walking, because you can do it walking too, which is great. Walking to your exam, sit down, keep doing your coherent breathing while they pass out the papers and all. And then you can even do it while you're taking the test so that your mind doesn't go blank. And that alone will often motivate them to want to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Gerbarg and Dr. Brown. This has been a true gift, and you can see through the chat how grateful people are, and lots of really wonderful comments coming from the audience. Pat and Dick are leading these workshops on a frequent basis through Zoom. So you don't have to go anywhere to take advantage of learning these practices. I went through level 1 training, level 2 training. It's been transformative for myself. I find myself using these practices multiple times a day just to get through the day sometimes. And also in practices like my sports or my running or even yoga, it's been deeply transformative. So you'll find very interesting ways to use these practices, and you can find additional information on upcoming workshops on their website at www.breath-body-mind.com. And again, for exercises with children, you can log on to our website, and we have a COVID-19 response section. If you click onto that and scroll down, you'll see Dr. Brown and Dr. Patricia Gerbarg's section on the breath, body, mind practices, and some of them I'm leading, some of them they're leading. Go ahead.
People can write to us through our website questions, and especially if you're interested in a program. For example, if you work in a healthcare facility and you'd like to have a program staff, we're delighted to hear from you. And also we have a free newsletter. We'll be posting in the next week or so our upcoming programs. They're not quite up yet, so hold off for a second and then go take a look. Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you both, and a special thank you to those who helped us organize this event, our events producer, Ajan and Chris, and thank you to you both for the time and your expertise, and really, again, this wonderful gift that you shared with us today.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, take care, guys.
This as well as new friends on the chat list.
Great. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.